I was not alone in the influence of the diocesan schools. Many of my friends went to the Philadelphia schools. We in the Coal Regions had a small school. We had a first, second, and third grade room, fourth and fifth grade room, and a sixth, seventh, and eighth grade room. My friend Vince had the advantage of going to a larger school, but the goodness, the virtue of his teachers affected him, I think, in a similar positive way as it affected me. I think Vince would like to share with the sisters a few of his experiences, not so much through the academics, but through the social caring and understanding of the sisters. I'll give you Vince Valaitis for a few minutes to share some of his thoughts with you. Thank you.
Yes, I too owe a lot to the good nuns. I particularly recall two instances when my childhood development was carefully molded and securely fastened to the good nature of the entire order of the Sisters of Mercy. I remember in first grade, I was walking down a hill and I tripped and fell, and I broke my little finger. In fact, the only thing I've ever broken ever has been my little finger. But I was very proud of the splint that held the finger straight so it could mend. So I went back to my first grade class and we were in the middle of penmanship. I remember it well because the boy behind me kept making his P's backwards. So I turned and I suggested to Ronald that his P's are being made backwards. And before I could finish, I suddenly heard a whoosh and a black and white blur come tearing down the aisle. A bit startled, I held my hand up, fearful that I might be struck. The nun hovered above me, saw my broken finger held out straight, and screamed at the top of her lungs, "A broken finger will not save you from the wrath of God!" Now, in first grade, I learned the true meaning of humility. Then, there was my third grade experience. It was a cold winter's day, and I had to put on a number of layers of clothing. Of course, I had to wear my maroon blazer, my maroon tie, and my overcoat. So I went to the closet and I swore I put on my maroon blazer and my maroon tie and my maroon overcoat. Unfortunately, when I got to school and I hung my overcoat on the back locker hook, I discovered to my horror that my blazer was missing. I thought that maybe my overcoat absorbed the blazer in some manner, so I ran back to the locker room and I looked through all the pockets and I looked through the lining, but no, my blazer was not there. Luckily my maroon tie was, but my blazer was not. So I thought I would throw myself on the mercy of the Sisters of Mercy. So I went up to the front of the room in my glowing white shirt and said sheepishly to Sister, "Sister, I forgot my blazer." And Sister responded, "Then you will kneel next to your seat for the entire morning." Of course, what is one to do? So I went to my seat and knelt there for the entire morning. And everything would have been pretty much uneventful had it not been for the suspected timed arrival of the Mother Superior, who came into the room, looked around at everyone seated, pointed to me in my white shirt, and said to the entire class, "Let this be a lesson to all of you. Never, ever forget any of your proper uniform." So with those two brief vignettes from my life, I leave you with, again, a sincere thanks for your efforts to mold my character. I give you now back to Bill Scudda.
Just one question, Vince. Do you think that this made you stronger? I think that your example, even though you made a mistake, that it was wise of Sister to make you kneel as an example to others. I remember one time when the windows were left open in January by the kid that was supposed to close the windows. So on Monday, Sister said, we will leave the windows open all day to punish everyone. And that seems to make a lot of sense to me, because it seemed to make me a lot stronger, although a little colder, but much stronger. Do you feel that you were enriched by this experience?
Enriched, my character strengthened, and I must tell you, I get misty-eyed at the memories of all of this. I also, too, remember another kneeling episode when I was supposed to memorize the charge of the Light Brigade in 6th grade, and I failed to get it memorized quickly enough, so the sister asked that I, for inspiration, kneel in front of the statue of the Blessed Mother until I learned the poem in great detail. And every half hour she would stop and she would ask, Vincent, would you care to repeat the poem that you've memorized? And I would begin, and as I'd falter, she would again say, you faltered. Continue. And I would then kneel for a longer time in front of the statue, waiting for the sister to again call me forth to recite this poem until I did it successfully, having been inspired by the grace of the Blessed Mother and, of course, her sincere attempts at instilling rote memory into my soul and character.
This might have really been the start of your escalator ride, as the picture in the Baltimore Catechism shows us, through the clouds, probably to eternal life. Not that we're born-again Christians, but I think this might have been a start. Proper humiliation, and I think builds character and virtue.
Well,
would you agree with that or not?
Yes, and as my friend Bill Bradfield once said, life, God, never did promise that life would be a rose garden.